Leslie had fantasized since childhood about meeting her future husband. In her imagination, this meeting was supposed to be something special, not just a typical encounter on the street. Phrases like "let's get to know each other" bored and disheartened her. In movies, everything was different. The hero would save the girl from bullets, take her away in a racing car, and fight against all the world's evil for his chosen one. Leslie wished for something similar, for someone to perform a heroic deed for her. However, everything turned out the opposite way. The girl had to save her prince herself. Early in the morning, Leslie was returning home from her shift. She worked as a nurse at the city hospital and lived in the village. Getting back to work was very inconvenient. Suburban buses didn't match her schedule. In winter, when there was a long wait for the nearest bus, Leslie would stay at the hospital, help other girls, or just have tea in the nursing room. In the summer, she enjoyed the quiet of early morning and the deserted city, walking slowly down the street and listening to the birds singing. On this particular morning, she was building castles in the air. Leslie felt that recently, therapist Mark had been paying too much attention to her, smiling more warmly than usual when they met, asking "how are you?" and seemingly genuinely interested in her response. On International Women's Day, he gave her a box of chocolates, claiming it was a gift from a patient, but Leslie didn't believe him. Mark's eyes were too shifty. He reacted too strongly when he touched her hand. Leslie couldn't understand what she felt towards Mark. Perhaps he was a pretty nice young man. Handsome, kind, and reliable. And how friendly he looked at her. Maybe it was love? Leslie couldn't decide for sure. She had only been in love once, with her classmate John. But that was a long time ago, back in her youth. John never paid attention to her. He constantly hung out with local beauties. A village heartbreaker, as they say. Now, it was something different. Leslie had matured, and her feelings had matured with her. She just couldn't figure them out due to inexperience. A vague noise nearby interrupted her thoughts. Some commotion, shouts. Leslie looked up and saw a small crowd not far away. Several drunk guys, judging by their laughter, gathered around someone lying on the ground, going through their belongings. Leslie felt a chill of fear. There was no doubt that they were robbers. Instincts told her to run, but the victim lying on the asphalt. Leslie couldn't leave a person in trouble. "What are you doing?" she squeaked in a trembling voice. "I'll call the police right now." In reality, the girl was ready to give these thugs a piece of her mind and stood her ground with the last of her strength. She was very scared. And what were the chances that the hooligans would be scared of a fragile girl? She wasn't a heavyweight boxer or a person in uniform. Just a random passerby. However, to her surprise, the drunk guys looked at her, laughed, and walked away. Someone waved at her. "We're done here, handled it ourselves without the police," they loudly chuckled, as if rejoicing in such a successful joke, and left. Leslie rushed to the guy lying on the ground. He groaned weakly, but seemed conscious. She looked at his battered face, covered in bruises and scratches, and gasped. "Oh God, what did they do to you?" Then she noticed a dark spot spreading on the stranger's shirt, and in general, she was at a loss for words. Stab wound sounded dry and official, but it looked terrible. "Who are you?" the guy mumbled, looking at her with swollen eyes. "A friend," Leslie said, the first thing that came to her mind. "Wait a bit, everything will be fine." With trembling hands, she took her phone from her bag and found the hospital's number. Then she changed her mind and called her friend Katie. "Hello." Katie answered immediately, probably sitting idle and browsing social media. "Leslie, what's up? Was the bus canceled?" "I didn't even reach the bus stop," Leslie replied. Listen, there's an emergency. I'll give you the address now, and you send me an ambulance. Why, did something happen to you? Katie panicked. Something happened, but not to me. A guy here has a stab wound. We need help urgently. Oh my God, where did you find him? All right, sending the ambulance. And why don't you call yourself? Katie, are you even asking? They come faster for their own. Leslie gave her friend the address and waited. The guy was coming to and then losing consciousness again. Leslie encouragingly squeezed his hand, unable to take her eyes off his wet shirt. There were still no other pedestrians, and only a couple of cars passed by. The girl felt horribly helpless, unable to do anything to help the stranger. The wait felt like an eternity when the ambulance finally arrived. Well, Leslie, who do we have here? The mustached doctor approached her, whistling. My, oh my. We arrived just in time. Load him up, guys. Leslie didn't go to the hospital with them. She was very tired. And what else could she do to help? There were many other nurses and doctors in the hospital who were more experienced than her. Nevertheless, her heart ached. The girl returned to the village, to her little house left by her grandfather. She put the kettle on, poured tea leaves, and forgot about her intention to have breakfast. The kettle had long whistled, but Leslie was staring out the window. She remembered the guy's bloodied face and felt sorry for him. He looked so defenseless. And, though Leslie struggled to admit it to herself, handsome. Yes, indeed. Even with bruises and wounds, the stranger looked very pleasant. Leslie turned off the kettle, collapsed onto the bed, and hugged the pillow, pondering how good it would be to find his attackers and report them to the police. And then she fell asleep. For the first time, Leslie couldn't wait for the next shift and called her friend to find out how things were in the hospital. Everything's fine, Katie surprisingly replied. How about you? Did you hit your head today? You're acting strange. Leslie remained silent, and Katie guessed. You're worried about that guy who got injured, aren't you? Yeah, kind of. My soul's not in its place all day. I practically saw him getting injured right before my eyes. Never seen anything like it. Or maybe you liked him, Katie added. Leslie waved off her assumptions. Oh, come on. He caught your eye, admit it. I have a sixth sense for such things. And he's not bad, even in that condition. So, Leslie was not mistaken. She wasn't the only one who noticed that there was something special about the rescued stranger. She didn't know why she was doing it, but the next day, she applied her makeup especially carefully, gazing at herself in the mirror for a long time before leaving home. The mood was bright and sunny, although, no, there was a lingering worry. How was the wounded guy? Is he feeling okay? She arrived at the hospital much earlier than usual, not intentionally, it just happened. She got on the bus that left first. The nurse she was supposed to replace was just returning to the nursing room and was very surprised to see Leslie there. Leslie, hi. Why are you here so early? Feeling inspired to work earlier in the morning? Leslie shrugged nonchalantly. Couldn't sleep for some reason. Decided to get up early and go to work. Why lie in bed for no reason? I'd lie down right now, Lily sighed. My legs are aching after the shift. Old man Lucas from the 202nd ward is unbearable, keeps whining about everything. Nothing suits him. Should have gone to a private clinic if he wanted to act up. Leslie hardly listened to her. She was preoccupied with a completely different patient. And how's that guy with the stab wound? She asked. The one they brought in yesterday. Is he getting better? Making strides, Lily nodded. The wound turned out to be trivial, nothing important was hit. Tom was born in a shirt, you can't say anything. Tom, is that his name? Leslie immediately caught on. Yeah, Lily squinted in bewilderment. And why the sudden interest? Is he your acquaintance? Leslie blushed, but quickly figured out what to say. Sort of. I found him and called the ambulance. Oh, really? Lily shook her head. And did you witness the attack? Was it scary? Very. But when I approached, those guys seemed to have already robbed Tom, and he was no longer interesting to them. They just left. Can you imagine? I couldn't believe it. So, you got lucky too. They could have attacked you as well. Honestly, I can't imagine what I would do in such a situation. You're brave. Lily left, and Leslie began to change. Usually, at this time, she would be going through all her responsibilities for the day in her head. She would also fantasize about the unexpected things that could happen. However, now she just wanted to see Tom. Leslie surprised herself. What was it? A simple desire to satisfy her pride? To see the person she saved? To hear him say thank you? Or did she happen to fall in love with this guy at first sight? She walked down the corridor in such contemplation that she didn't immediately notice Mark coming towards her. Hello, Leslie, he greeted warmly. How are you? You look a bit moody. Did something happen? Leslie shook her head. No, nothing. Just reminiscing about that attack. Oh, you don't know. Yesterday, on my way home from work, I saw a guy getting robbed. He was stabbed. That image is still in front of my eyes. Mark nodded seriously. I heard and was very worried about you. Imagine what would have happened if those guys decided to retaliate against you. She shivered. Fortunately, I was lucky. Yes, Mark nodded. Nevertheless, I don't want to worry about you anymore. So, take this gift. He handed her a small box. Leslie took it in her hands. What is this? A stun gun. The most suitable thing for such situations. Leslie shook her head, trying to return the gift. Are you serious? I'm even afraid to use it. Silly girl, there's nothing scary about it. So, take it and always carry it in your purse. Take care of yourself. Mark left, and Leslie remained scrutinizing the gift. A stun gun, indeed, looked solid, like a real weapon. Perhaps, with it, she would feel more confident. Leslie was afraid to ask too many questions about Tom. Afraid that someone, following Lily or Katie's example, would notice her interest. Therefore, she learned about the guy's whereabouts only by lunchtime. She pondered for a long time how to proceed and, in the end, just went and quietly knocked on his ward door. May I come in? No one answered. Leslie cracked the door open and peeked inside. Tom was sleeping on his bed, the blanket thrown back, and Leslie could see a thick layer of bandages on the guy's side. There was no blood on his body, but there were plenty of bruises. Tom's face also sported various shades of purple. Yet, he was very handsome. Leslie couldn't believe that it was real blood and bruises. I remembered, Tom said, smiling. You're the one. You called yourself my savior when we first met. Remember? The girl who saved me from those idiots. Leslie blushed. What kind of savior am I? I just called an ambulance. And didn't just pass by, he added, and there was nothing to argue about. They fell silent for a while, and then Tom said quietly, Thank you. For what? Leslie replied. I'm glad you're feeling better. Tom smiled. Not exactly great, but at least alive. I'm glad, Leslie repeated. She felt horribly silly repeating the same thing but didn't know what else to say. What's your name? The guy asked. Tell me your name. I have to know who to thank for the rest of my life. Leslie, the girl replied. And I'm Tom. I know, everyone here talks about you. Wow. So, I'm a local celebrity? I'm flattered. And you, it seems, work here at the hospital? White coat, cap, and all that. The Mercy Sister? Nurse, Leslie corrected him with a smile. Yes, you probably don't often end up here if you don't know the name of my profession. Thank God. Tom grinned. I don't go to hospitals, and, in general, this is my first time in the surgical department. But, in general, I can't complain. After all, this way, I got to know you. Leslie didn't find words to respond to that. Yes, she didn't have much time for contemplation. The door to the ward opened, revealing an impressive lady in a casually thrown-on white coat. Beneath it, a beautiful dress was visible. Leslie had a vague feeling that she had seen it somewhere, perhaps in one of the Cosmopolitan issues. Lily often brought fashion magazines to work and flipped through them during lunch, mostly admiring the pictures and gasping at the prices mentioned below. Hello, Tom, the woman said, looking displeased at Leslie. Sorry for being late, traffic. The girl understood that she had no place here and headed for the door. Tom shouted after her. Come in again, let's chat. Sure, Leslie nodded and slipped out the door. Already in the corridor, she heard the woman ask the guy. Tom, who is this? A nurse. You've seen her yourself, he replied. Too friendly of a nurse, the woman commented. She obviously has her eye on you. And what was that coming again? She'll have to come here anyway. It's her job. Oh, Mom, don't start. If you want to know, this girl saved me yesterday. She called the ambulance. If she hadn't... Leslie was afraid of being caught eavesdropping and quietly left. Tom's mother was as unpleasant as he was pleasant. But the girl didn't think much about it. She remembered Tom's smile and felt herself starting to smile too. The day was starting wonderfully. She kept her promise and came to Tom again. And the next day. And so on until he was discharged. At first, Leslie felt embarrassed, but then she got used to Tom, and the conversation flowed naturally. The young people chatted about everything under the sun. Tom told her about himself and how he ended up in the hands of robbers. I was coming back from a party, a friend's birthday. We had a bit too much, didn't call a taxi. Thought I'd go, get some fresh air. Didn't bother anyone, but then this crowd latched onto me. Started with the usual give me a light, and it went downhill from there. They took my phone and money, but that's okay. At least I met you. Leslie blushed. Tom wasn't the first to thank her for saving him, and every time, it made her blush. Well, and what were you doing outside at that time? The guy asked, getting comfortable on the pillows. He had made it a habit to call Leslie sister as an abbreviation for her profession, and she liked it. I was coming back from work, she replied. The whole night was chaotic. First, a man was brought in who stepped on a nail. I had to assist the surgeon. Then Lucas from the 202nd Ward caused a scandal, and in the end you ended up in the story. Good ending to the day. Tom grinned, then became serious. Still, it's dangerous to wander the streets at that time. I've seen what kind of characters roam there. Couldn't anyone meet you? Leslie shook her head. I live alone in the village, so I have to walk to the bus station. Public transportation has already stopped, and I can't afford a taxi. The whole salary would go there. And what? Don't you have any relatives? My parents died when I was very young, Leslie said quietly. And Grandpa Logan 2 years ago. He raised me, and now I live in his house. What she told was not entirely true. Leslie wasn't sure if her parents were alive or not. She had never seen her father, didn't even know exactly who he was. Wandered and left, that's what neighbors said about her mother. Leslie's mother drank a lot, hung out with a bad crowd, and for Grandpa Logan, it was a certain relief to find out that she had left for good. As sorry as the old man was to part with his own daughter, she was a lost soul, and there was still hope for Leslie. Without her mother's bad influence, she could grow up to be a normal person. Leslie grew up the way her grandfather wanted her to be. She excelled in school, then in college, and eventually landed a job at the hospital. No one could have guessed that her parents were alcoholics with a rather murky past. However, Leslie never dwelled on this story. It disappeared from her life, and that was it. Moreover, she had no intention of revealing the whole truth to Tom. Talking about her troubled mother was embarrassing. I sympathize, mumbled Tom. Must be tough living on your own, especially in a village. Not really, Leslie replied. I have good neighbors. Peter, for example, helps with repairs if something breaks. In return, I give his mother injections. A nurse is always useful, saving herself and others. I don't doubt that, Tom smiled. I've experienced your help firsthand. The door opened, and Scarlett, Tom's mother, entered the room. Her eyes flashed unfriendly at the sight of Leslie. Good day, dear. And you, I see, are sharpening your claws again? I wonder, do you have any time left for your job? Or are you constantly hanging around here? Mom. Tom reproachfully muttered. Leslie jumped up from her chair. Yes. I'm leaving. See you later, Tom. Get well. She hurried out of the room and almost collided with Mark. He looked at her with surprise. Leslie, what happened? You don't seem yourself today. Everything's fine, she replied, wiping her eyes. I just forgot about an important matter. I'm afraid if I don't attend to it urgently, I'll get scolded. Our supervisor isn't that much of a villain, Mark reassured her. He'll grumble and forget, as long as there's something to grumble about. Leslie nodded and stepped away from him, trying to escape as far as possible from the ward. Scarlett's harsh words burned her soul. Where did such cruelty come from? Why? They were just talking. Did this woman really think that the poor nurse had designs on her son? Yes, Tom came from a very wealthy family. His father managed some company, and his mother lacked nothing, living for her own pleasure, disappearing into yoga classes and beauty salons. However, Leslie loved him not for his money. She didn't need his wealth. She just enjoyed being around Tom, that was all. But as much as she wanted to prolong their meetings, the time for discharge was approaching. On Tom's last day in the hospital, Leslie came to see him again. He was packing his things, putting various items into a sports bag. She stopped and helplessly watched him. Leaving? She asked, well aware of what his answer would be. Yes, Tom nodded. Mom will be here soon. Leslie didn't want to meet Scarlett again, so she decided to say goodbye immediately. Good luck, and don't wander the streets at night. You've seen how dangerous it can be. What about you? Tom asked. Will you keep seeking adventures on your own? Leslie shrugged. I'm a different case. I have nowhere else to go. Maybe look for another job. Tom remained silent for a moment and then asked, Why do you talk to me as if we'll never see each other again? What's with the tears in your eyes? Surprised, Leslie wiped her cheek. She hadn't noticed she started crying. Where can we meet? She wondered. You probably won't be back to the hospital. It's for the best. To the hospital? Tom laughed. Leslie, dear, people meet not only in hospitals. How about coming to a party this weekend to celebrate my discharge? I've booked a trendy cafe downtown. You'll be an honored guest, believe me. Leslie was astonished by this announcement. How could she respond to this invitation? But refusing was not an option. I'll come, she nodded. I'll be very pleased. Her colleagues, Katie and Lily, were shocked when Leslie told them about it. He invited you? Seriously? That rich guy? Why not? Lily intervened. Our Leslie is a beauty. Moreover, a natural one, without any pumped-up lips or silicone. Don't miss your chance, Leslie. Being the wife of an ordinary therapist is so dull. Talking about medical matters in the evenings and vacationing by the sea. Tom can offer something fancier. Like the Maldives. Leslie was perplexed. Again, talks about money. How could she prove to others that she liked Tom for who he was, without any financial considerations? But, for now, she had a more pressing issue. She had no idea what to wear to the party. Leslie's wardrobe consisted of simple dresses, skirts without frills, and jeans. None of it seemed suitable. Lily came to the rescue, kindly lending her own stylish dress. I only wore it once at graduation, she boasted. Ordered it from an atelier. You won't find anything like this in our town or anywhere in the world. Wear it with confidence. In her new dress, Leslie felt like a beauty. Maybe she already was, but she realized it only now. Tom greeted her at the bus station. Getting into his car, Leslie felt like a princess. She had never ridden in such luxurious cars before. Tom was clearly impressed by her new look. You look great. Thank you, the girl smiled. I have something for your outfit. Tom rummaged in the car's glove compartment and pulled out a couple of small boxes. In one of them were beautiful golden earrings, and in the other, a pendant depicting a branch of some plant. Leslie had never seen such beauty before. You can't, it's too expensive, she protested. I can't accept such a gift. Do you think my life is worth less? The guy winked at her. Take it, it's a thank you for saving my life. Leslie hesitantly took off her modest earrings, the only ones she had, and put on the new ones. Do they suit me? You're the most beautiful, Tom assured her, pressing the gas. Tom's friends, waiting for him at the cafe, welcomed Leslie warmly. Everyone was curious to see the girl who dared to stand up against the bandits. All evening, Leslie received compliments for her courage and beauty. She was dizzy from dancing with Tom, the music, and the champagne they had consumed. The feeling of happiness didn't disappear by morning. Leslie woke up in a luxurious hotel room. She lay for a long time, staring at the ceiling, feeling like she wanted to embrace the whole world. However, she didn't have superpowers, so she did the only thing she could. She hugged Tom. He grimaced in his sleep, opened his eyes. Leslie smiled. Good morning, sunshine. The guy smiled back. I thought I dreamt all of this. Definitely not, she reassured him. At most, we had a shared dream. Leslie closed her eyes and hugged Tom even tighter. You're my first. I'll never forget this night. The guy was surprised. You know, you are probably the only real person I've met in my entire life. The young couple started dating, much to the disbelief of Katie and Lily. Yes, Leslie couldn't believe it herself. It felt like she had stepped into a fairy tale. The dull, gray weekdays were forgotten, or rather, she mechanically performed her duties while her thoughts drifted far away to Tom. She remembered how they went to a concert of a famous band, sang along louder than anyone else, how they went out into nature. Tom had a beautiful house in the suburbs, near a river and a forest. Leslie could sit on the porch for a long time and admire the view. It never got boring. And if Tom was nearby, the girl was willing to spend eternity with him. Scarlett caught them here. Leslie usually watched the time and tried to slip out of the house before Scarlett arrived, but now she forgot about the time. Tom's embrace was so relaxing. Well, are you sitting? She asked instead of a greeting, drilling Leslie with a displeased look. We are, Tom nodded, hugging Leslie by the shoulders. And, in my opinion, we should greet first. You taught me that in childhood, didn't you? Scarlett snorted but didn't say anything. Tom continued. And I would like you to meet Leslie. I already know her, the woman muttered, bypassing them on the steps. However, Tom stopped his mother. No, introduce yourself again, she's my future wife. Scarlett stared at him as if hoping that the last phrase was just her imagination. Leslie was also taken aback. Really? The girl asked uncertainly. Absolutely, he reassured her. I was planning to propose to you tonight, so let my mom know. A proposal? To this country bumpkin? Scarlett muttered. It seemed she was about to have a fit. Not to a bumpkin, but to Leslie. Tom raised his voice, noticed. And I would ask you, Mom, to choose your words. This is my fiancé. Yeah, what a fiancé. A village orphan. No estate, no courtyard. Did she bewitch you for money? It's embarrassing to be seen with her in public. What will you talk to your Leslie about? Potatoes? And what will you talk about? Tom parried. Nail polish? Let's go, Leslie. Let's sit somewhere else, and my mother can think about her behavior. You'll regret this. Scarlett yelled after them. Leslie turned and looked at her. The woman looked both pitiful and angry. It seemed she wouldn't mind strangling her future daughter-in-law with her own hands. Mother tried to dissuade Tom again and again, holding one conversation after another. Her husband, Leonard, didn't interfere in family scandals, letting his son decide his fate on his own, and the woman fought for both of them. She brought up different arguments. Leslie is uneducated. She'll use Tom for his money. And isn't he too young for marriage? When Scarlett realized that her son was not swayed by her pleas, she resorted to other tricks, pretended to be ill, had hypertensive attacks from grief, all in vain. Tom responded with only one thing. Enough, Mom. Whether you like it or not, I'm marrying Leslie. At least on principle. I'm tired of you deciding everything for me. And Scarlett had to accept it. She understood that by fighting with her future daughter-in-law, she could lose her son and fell silent. She looked at Leslie with angry eyes, but no longer showered her with insults. The young couple applied to the registry office. Katie and Lily fought for the role of the witness at the wedding, giving advice on choosing a dress, a hairdresser, and a manicure. Leslie felt very embarrassed, meeting Mark in the hospital corridors. He didn't say anything more but looked so sad that it broke her heart. Everything was clear. The girl he loved went to someone else. One day, when Leslie was at work, her phone rang. She assumed it was Katie, who had a day off, and without looking, answered the call. However, the voice on the other end was unfamiliar to Leslie. "Leslie," said the unknown woman, "I'm calling about your family." "What family?" the girl wondered. "I don't have anyone." "Mary isn't your mother?" Leslie nodded. "Yes, she is, but I haven't seen her in many years, so I can't tell you anything about her." "Sorry, I'm not asking you anything. Everything is already known. Your mother passed away 3 months ago, leaving behind a 6-year-old son named Miles. Perhaps this information will be of interest to you." This was quite the news. Leslie's legs went weak. "Yes," she said in a weak voice. "Please, tell me more." Mary's story turned out to be a sad one. Leaving her daughter in the village, she continued to live a wild life. Renting a room in a boarding house, changing companions like gloves. Miles' father was unknown, just like Leslie's. The boy grew up wild and frightened. His mother hardly took care of him, and then she died in a drunken stupor. Her heart couldn't take it. Leslie was on her way to meet him and felt very anxious. A brother was no joke, especially with such an age difference. "What should I do?" she asked herself, but found no answer. She was greeted at the children's home and escorted to the yard. At that time, the children were on a walk, running around the stairs and swings with squeals of joy. The caregiver pointed to a boy sitting nearby. "There's your brother. Quite a wild one. Can't get used to the new place." The boy looked at them. The caregiver waved to him. "Miles, come here. This is your sister." Miles cautiously approached them. Leslie reached out to him. "Hi, I'm Leslie." Miles shook her hand and immediately lowered his gaze. It seemed the boy was even shyer than Leslie was at his age. The caregiver left to give them some time to talk, and Leslie and her brother sat on a bench. "I'm really glad I found you," she said, not hiding her emotions. "You know, I was raised by Grandpa Logan, and after his death, I feel very lonely. And now I have you. Isn't that great?" Miles shyly looked at her. "Do you want to be friends with me?" "Of course," Leslie assured him. "You're my brother." She didn't know where such confidence came from in her soul. Maybe it was a belated protest against a mother who abandoned her and left without ever inquiring about her daughter's fate. Or maybe Leslie did want to have a close person nearby. But she had no idea how she would explain everything to Tom. Especially to Scarlett. How would she present her brother to them? The wedding was just around the corner. How would she confront them with a brother? On her days off, Leslie started coming to the children's home and spending time with Miles. Sometimes they went to the nearby park to feed pigeons and ride carousels. Leslie told Tom that she was preparing for the wedding, altering her dress, getting a manicure. She came up with any excuse to postpone their meeting. Could she have ever thought before that she would avoid Tom? Such a thought was unimaginable. She told her brother about her intention to get married. Miles looked sad. "So, I won't see you anymore?" "Why?" The girl was surprised. "What will change?" "My mom also forgot about me when she found a new dad for me," the boy explained. "It always happens." In the days that passed, Miles became very attached to her, considering Leslie almost like a mother. Seeing the pain in his eyes was unbearable. Leslie hugged him impulsively. "I will never abandon you, I promise. We will definitely live together. Just give me some time, okay?" The boy nodded, crying on her shoulder, and Leslie became even more determined in her decision. She would talk to Tom, and he would surely accept Miles. How could it be otherwise? On the day of the wedding, Leslie was very nervous. Lily, adjusting the frills on her dress, nodded approvingly. Beautiful. Tom will see you and be floored, I guarantee. Leslie forced a stiff smile. The pre-wedding jitters, thoughts about her brother, all this combined in her head, not letting her sit still. Leslie couldn't wait to be alone with her groom and reveal the whole truth. Better before the wedding, it would be more honest. However, someone was always around. And, as it turned out, it wasn't just Leslie who wanted to open Tom's eyes. They were near the registry office, waiting for their turn. Leonard's friends, Tom's relatives, and friends. Scarlett approached her son and said in a sugary voice, Tom, can I distract you for a second? I want to show you something interesting. The guy turned away from his friend and faced her. What's up, Mom? She handed him the phone. I took an interesting picture. Take a look, please. What do you have there? He smiled and took the phone. When Tom looked at the screen, surprise appeared on his face. Leslie peeked over his shoulder and froze. There she was in the photo with Miles in the park. Her mother-in-law had indeed tracked her down, beating Leslie to the confession. Leslie, our heroine mother, triumphantly declared Scarlett. She wanted to make you happy not only as a wife, but also as a mother. Amazing. Leslie realized that everyone was looking at her and, lifting her head, said firmly and confidently, Miles is not my son, he's my biological brother. But you said your parents died. Scarlett, faux surprised. Left you, an orphan, in the village. And here, suddenly, a brother shows up at the age of 5. Is that even possible? Leslie remained silent, trying to gather her thoughts. Scarlett smiled. What? Your imagination can't come up with another lie? Well, think. We'll wait. Leslie sighed heavily. So, is that it? Okay. I endured it for a long time, kept quiet for you, Scarlett. But if you're going to treat me like this, I won't keep silent either. Keep silent about what? The woman smirked. What else have you come up with, country girl? Leslie looked at Scarlett's husband, Leonard, and said, Leonard, Tom is not your son. The guests fell silent abruptly. There was such a stillness that you could hear her bee circling over the flower bed. What? The man asked uncertainly. Your wife got him from your former driver. I overheard a conversation between your cook Betty and the gardener Matt. Scarlett got pregnant and decided to deceive you, went along with your money. Yes, you always judged me by yourself, Scarlett, and you paid the driver to keep quiet. Deny it? The woman remained silent, catching her breath. All the guests stared at her with wide eyes. Leslie felt that she also felt sick. It was disgusting to be in this ugly environment, where every word was scrutinized. She began to make her way through the crowd. Wait, Tom grabbed her hand. Do you realize what you're doing? Talking like this to my mother. How? Leslie raised her eyebrows. Just like she talks to me. I didn't start this war first. Tom frowned. I don't need a scandalous wife, that's not what I dreamed of. If you continue in this vein, it's over between us. Leslie looked at him carefully and nodded. You know what? Maybe it's better not to start at all. Go to your mommy, you two make a great pair. You'll be better off together. He didn't stop her anymore. Leslie proudly walked through the crowd and went home. There, she changed and went to her brother. Miles was very happy to see her. You said you wouldn't come today, he shouted. Leslie shrugged. I changed my mind and some other things too. You know, I would like to take you to the village. What do you think of my proposal? Instead of answering, the boy rushed to hug her. Everything was clear without words. It took some time, but Leslie's life got back on track. She managed to gain guardianship over her brother, then sent him to school. She continued to work at the hospital and no longer built castles in the air. After a while, she married Mark. He dreamed of a large family and accepted Miles without objections. Leslie searched for her prince far away, but found him in the local hospital. All she needed to do was see him beneath the white coat, which was sometimes not so easy to do.